Put my son down. Now! The shout sliced through the afternoon like a blade. The baby bottle hit the floor and rolled away, making a sound far too small for the weight of that moment. On the pale linen couch, with her simple uniform still damp at the cuffs, Anna held the baby tightly yet gently, her blouse slightly out of place from the desperate motion of nursing him. The whole room seemed to shrink. The silence wasn't really silence. It was pressure. Marcos Bellotti's house had always been a place where people spoke softly, where doors never slammed, where money softened every edge of the world. But in that moment, nothing muffled the impact. Anna tried to speak, but her voice broke. He was crying for a long time. The nanny went to answer the phone and, "Shut your mouth." His tone came sharp and cold, the voice of someone delivering a verdict. "Who gave you the right to touch my son?" The word right hung in the air like an accusation that needed no proof. Two housekeepers arranging flowers by the hallway table stepped closer, eyes wide. Another, the driver, stood frozen by the door, clutching an envelope as if it could shield him. The nanny, pale as paper, came running back from the corridor, stumbling when she saw the scene. "I was gone just 2 minutes, sir. 2 minutes, I swear," she said, swallowing hard. He wouldn't stop crying. Marcos didn't look at her. Every muscle in his face was aimed at Anna, like cannons at a trench. He didn't need to shout. Lowering his voice made the humiliation heavier. "You're the cleaning lady, right?" he asked, not waiting for an answer. "Your job is mop, bucket, and floor, not breast." The line struck the room like a slap. Anna felt her face burn, not only from shame, but from helplessness. The baby in her arms, warm and fragile, gripped her finger with quiet trust. It was the worst and the most beautiful thing at once. "I'm sorry," Anna whispered, her voice trembling, fighting back tears. He was choking on the bottle. "I tried to help, but no one came. I still had milk. I just wanted to help." "Help?" Marcos almost smiled, but it wasn't a smile at all. "You think invading my family's privacy is helping?" Whispers began buzzing like insects in the dark. "What nerve! Just wants attention. These poor women, always the same." Anna took a deep breath. She had no defense, only hunger, unpaid bills, and a sick child at a community daycare, feverish and with medicine that didn't always work. Her arms ached from scrubbing floors that were never hers, and her dignity had been chipped away grain by grain. But she'd heard a baby cry. Not her own, but hungry all the same. Hunger doesn't check name tags. "Sir, it was my fault," the nanny said quickly, stepping forward. "I left just for a moment to answer the pediatrician's call. Quiet, Lucia." Marcos's voice now carried ice. "This isn't about blame. I want to understand the audacity." He walked toward Anna slowly. One step, then another. The ticking clock in the hallway became painfully loud, counting seconds that refused to move. Anna held her breath. In the reflection on the glass cabinet, she saw them both. Herself, small and tense. Him, tall and flawless. His grey suit built to intimidate. Between them the baby, pure and unaware, like a tiny light caught in a storm. "Do you have a child?" Marcos asked suddenly. Anna nodded, barely audible. 2 years old. He's got a fever today. But my neighbor is watching him. I needed to come." "Needed to?" he repeated with sarcasm. "And did you need to breastfeed mine?" Heat rose up Anna's neck. She realized there are shames you don't know exist until someone names them for you. "I didn't think about rules." I thought about him. He was turning purple from crying so hard, choking, spitting out the bottle. I just did what any mother would do when a baby needs help. The driver cleared his throat softly, as if trying to break a spell. His eyes, the only human warmth in that polished room, begged Marcos to breathe. But the man didn't. He stared at Anna as if she were a riddle that offended him. "Stand up," he ordered. Anna obeyed, still holding the baby against her shoulder. Her legs trembled. One of the maids reached out to take the child, but he clung tighter to Anna's uniform, as if choosing a safe place. The gesture stirred a wave of disapproval. "See?" someone whispered. Kids get attached to the wrong scent if you let them. Marcos saw it too, and for a moment something flickered in his eyes. A shadow of memory, a spark from somewhere old. It vanished quickly, like a window slammed shut against the wind. Sit over there. He pointed to a chair beneath the skylight where every mistake looked larger. Everyone, come here. The whole house will hear this. Footsteps echoed. Lucia stood beside Anna, guilty and quiet. The driver backed up to the door but stayed. The two maids remained standing, arms crossed. The gardener came in hesitantly, cap in hand like a silent apology. The house, used to hosting dinners and deals, now arranged itself into a courtroom. "I'll ask once," said Marcos. "Did someone tell you to do this?" "No," Anna answered, her voice steadier than she expected. "No one. It was my decision." Decision. He rolled the word on his tongue, letting it drop like a stone. "How long have you been working here?" 3 months. "And in 3 months you thought you'd earned the right to make decisions about my child?" Anna opened her mouth, then shut it again. Some answers only made things worse. She looked at the baby, now asleep, full and unaware of any social code. It hurt and soothed her at the same time. "You can fire me, sir," she finally said. "I understand, just don't make me feel like I was wrong for feeding a child. I know I crossed a line, I know I should have asked, but I couldn't stand seeing him cry like that. I remembered my own, in the hospital, no milk, no medicine, alone. And I thought, if I can stop this crying now, even for 1 minute, then I'll stop it." Lucia's eyes glistened with held-back tears. The gardener coughed, hiding his emotion. One of the maids rolled her eyes, as if pity were an outfit she refused to wear. Marcos stayed silent for long seconds. Then he tilted his head slightly, as if hearing something from nowhere. "You think kindness buys forgiveness?" he asked quietly. "That good intention replaces boundaries?" "I wasn't being kind," Anna answered, surprised at her own courage. "I acted on instinct." He stared at her, weighing the boldness of a simple word. Instinct. In places like that, instinct was what you hired people to suppress. The ticking of the clock grew louder again. The skylight cast a rectangle of light creeping up the wall, as if time itself wanted a clearer view. Then Marcos stepped forward twice. He held out his arms. By reflex, Anna offered the baby back, gentle, careful, as though returning something that wasn't hers. And it wasn't. As the child changed arms, he whimpered and searched the air with his mouth, remembering a hunger already answered. Someone at the back let out a nervous laugh. Marcos didn't laugh. He softly stroked his son's head, and his hard gaze cracked. "What you call instinct," he said without looking at her, "others would call intrusion. The world never agrees on names. But crying doesn't wait for a vote, does it?" No one answered, because it wasn't really a question. He handed the baby to the nanny, who took him as if she were receiving a secret. Then he finally turned to Anna, and the entire room held its breath. "You'll finish your shift today," he said, controlled, "but not in the way you think." Their eyes met, confused. The humiliation still hung heavy, but something in the air had changed temperature, subtle, like when a storm turns, and a cold breeze signals the wind's new direction. Anna didn't know if this was the start of the end or the start of something else. She only knew that sometimes the line between losing everything and gaining a shred of dignity fits into 3 unspoken words. Marcos turned to the whole staff. "Bring everyone to the main room," he ordered. "I want them to hear what I have to say." The hallway stirred. Footsteps, whispers, doors opening. The house breathed differently. The clock now seemed faster, and Dana, with trembling hands and her heart in her throat, realized the trial wasn't over. It had only just begun. The doors of the main room opened slowly, and the click of heels on marble announced Helena's arrival, the housekeeper. She was the one who ran the house, who knew who came and went, who spoke too much, and who stayed silent. When she saw Anna sitting there, red-eyed and shaking, she lifted her chin in an automatic gesture of superiority. "What's going on here, Mr. Marcos?" she asked, measuring every syllable, as if she already knew but wanted to savor it. "What happened?" he answered, without taking his eyes off Anna, is that one of the staff crossed every acceptable line. A murmur rippled through the room. Helena frowned, looking at the cleaner the way one looks at a stain on an expensive carpet. Crossed a line? How so? Marcos signaled for Lucia, the nanny, to explain. She hesitated, swallowing hard, but before she could speak, Helena cut in, with a tone almost triumphant. "Don't tell me it was her who—" She paused, turning slowly toward Anna. "Who dared to touch the baby?" The silence confirmed it. Helena scoffed, incredulous. "This is outrageous. A cleaning woman, someone without even training. My God, what goes through these people's heads?" The words "these people" were like invisible knives. Anna lowered her eyes, feeling each one cut deep. "I only tried to help," she murmured, barely audible. Helena let out a dry laugh. "Help? Help with what? With showing off? Playing the saint?" "Enough, Helena." Marcos's voice cut the air, cold but not loud. "I didn't ask for your opinion." She stepped back, but didn't lose her air of superiority. She crossed her arms, snorting quietly, watching like someone waiting for the end of a show. Little by little, everyone was there. Cook, driver, gardener, 2 maids. All eyes were on Anna, who shrank deeper into the chair. She felt her skin tingle, her heart thud in her ears, the urge to disappear. "I just want to understand," said Marcos, pacing slowly across the room. "What makes someone think they can do whatever they want, even inside another person's house?" "It was instinct, sir," Anna repeated, her voice a thin thread. "I acted without thinking." "You should have thought first," Helena muttered from the side, her tone dripping with venom. Marcos shot her a look sharp enough to silence her instantly. But the damage was done. The words had already fallen, echoing through the room like shattered glass. Anna took a deep breath. "I understand what you think, sir. I know my place. I just couldn't hear that crying and do nothing. I saw the baby choking and no one came. The nanny didn't return. I remembered my own child." Her voice trembled, but it didn't break. "I lost a child a year ago, sir. My second. He was born weak, and I couldn't feed him. My milk dried up, and when I heard your baby crying, I didn't think about work or rules. I thought about that sound, the same sound, the one I couldn't silence before." The room went still. Time seemed to stop. Helena looked away. The cook discreetly wiped a tear. Even the driver swallowed hard, staring at the floor. Marcos remained standing, unmoving, but something in his face shifted, like ice starting to crack from the inside. "You lost a child?" he asked, his voice lower now. "Yes, sir." Anna stared at her hands, gripping them tight. "I buried him without a coffin, just a sheet, because I had no money." The sound of that confession made the air heavy. The nanny, Lucia, couldn't hold back a sob. Helena tried to cover her discomfort with a dry cough. These sad stories are always the same. But no one was listening to her anymore. Every eye was on Anna, and for the first time she didn't look like just an employee. She looked human. Wounded, tired, real, Marcos rubbed his face, drew in a breath and said, "Bring her some water." Helena's eyes widened. "Water? Sir, this woman—" "I said bring it." His tone was calm but commanding. The cook rushed to the kitchen and came back with a glass. Anna hesitated, unsure if she should take it. "Drink," said Marcos. "It's not a favor." She drank slowly, and the tears started falling on their own. Marcos stepped back and looked around. "It's easy to judge." His gaze swept from Helena to the others. "Easy to look down and think life is simple, that some people are born to obey and others to command. But none of you here knows what it's like to watch your child cry from hunger." The silence that followed was deep and uneasy. Helena tried to recover. "But sir, with all due respect," she crossed a line, There are things desperation doesn't ask permission for," he interrupted. "There are pains you'll never understand, because money erased your memory of what hunger feels like." His words hit like quiet thunder. Anna lowered her head, softly sobbing. Marcos stood still for a moment, thoughtful, before saying something no one expected. "I want to meet your child, Anna." She looked up, confused. My son, sir. Yes, I want to see where he is." A wave of shock rippled through the room. Helena let out a furious, "What? Sir, that's completely quiet." He didn't raise his voice, but the command was absolute. Anna wiped her tears with the back of her hand, not understanding. What did he want? Why? Marcos turned and started walking up the stairs. Before disappearing into the hallway, he said only, "Tomorrow morning at 7, take me to him." The door closed behind him, and the house seemed to hang in mid-air, as if the ground had vanished beneath everyone's feet. Helena stared at Anna with a mix of anger and envy. "Enjoy it while it lasts," she hissed. "Around here, no one gets a second chance." But Anna didn't answer. She stayed seated, motionless, trying to understand whether that request was the beginning of salvation or another kind of humiliation. Night fell slowly, but inside Anna's mind time refused to rest. Every minute felt like a wait. After what the boss had said, "I want to meet your son," she couldn't focus on anything else. The hallways felt longer, the voices more distant. Every step came, with the sting of eyes following her, burning with judgment. In the workers' locker room, silence felt hostile. Helena, the housekeeper, stood by the lockers with crossed arms, watching everything. "So the boss's little favorite has become the center of attention, huh?" she said, with a sharp smile. "Must feel special now, doesn't it?" Anna said nothing. She took off her uniform, folded it neatly, and placed it inside her worn fabric bag. The rustle of plastic sounded like thunder in the silence. "Don't get used to it," Helena went on, staring at their reflection in the mirror. "He might pity you today, but tomorrow he'll be himself again. And when that happens, you'll find out how much it hurts to fall from a powerful man's grace." Anna stood still, hands gripping the fabric of the bag. "I don't want pity," she said calmly. "I just want to understand what he wants." Helena let out a short, bitter laugh. "What he wants? No man asks questions like that out of curiosity." Anna didn't reply. She left the room in silence, her chest tight. When she reached the street, the cool night air hit her face like relief. She walked to the bus stop, her legs heavy, her thoughts tangled. While she waited, she looked up at the dark sky and thought of her son, Lucas. His name whispered inside her chest like a quiet plea for forgiveness. Lucas was 2 years old and somehow strong beyond reason. He'd been born early, spent weeks in the hospital, and since then lived between fevers and medicines. The community daycare only accepted him because the coordinator, a kind woman named Sister Teresa, knew Anna's situation. The bus arrived, coughing out smoke, and she climbed aboard, gripping the handrail tightly. The lights flickered, the smell of diesel mixed with the scent of worn-out people. Inside, every face looked like a mirror of the same exhaustion. During the ride, Anna rested her head against the window and closed her eyes. The image of her boss's baby kept flashing in her mind, the crying, the frightened look, the heavy silence that followed, and behind it all, Marcos's cold voice saying, "You'll finish your shift today, but not the way you think." Was he going to fire her, humiliate her in front of everyone? Or, in some way she couldn't explain, had he actually felt compassion? She didn't know. She reached the neighborhood close to midnight. The streets were empty, lit only by weak lamps and the distant sound of music. She climbed the narrow alleys until she reached her small home, a one-room brick house with a low roof and the faint smell of soap. As soon as she walked in, she heard Lucas's soft cough. She rushed to the thin mattress and saw him sleeping, his tiny face sweaty, his small body wrapped in a worn blanket. "My love," she whispered, brushing her fingers through his hair. "Mommy's here." Sister Teresa, who lived next door, had left a jug of tea on the table and a note. "Fever went down. Gave him the syrup at 8 p.m. Pray and rest. Tomorrow is another day." Anna sat beside her son and cried in silence. She didn't know if tomorrow would be better or worse. She only knew she had to wake up at 5 to be ready when her boss called. As sleep crept in, an old memory surfaced. The hospital, her second child, the thin sheet serving as a shroud. She remembered the doctor who wouldn't meet her eyes when he said, "He didn't make it." She remembered walking out alone. no one asking her name. Since that day, she swore she'd never let a child cry from hunger near her again. The sun hadn't even risen when the sound of roosters and early engines woke Anna. She put on her cleanest clothes, tied her hair back, kissed her son, and left a note for the neighbor. "I'll be back before noon. Please watch him. If I don't return, take him to Sister Teresa." The walk to the bus stop was slow, heavy. The morning air was damp, carrying the smell of wet earth. On the bus, she kept thinking about what to say. She didn't know how to explain things if her boss asked too many questions. She didn't know whether to mention Lucas's father, a man who vanished the moment he learned she was pregnant. When she arrived at the mansion, exactly at 7, the driver, Augusto, was waiting. He seemed different from the day before, less tense, almost kind. "The boss asked me to wait for you," he said, opening the car door. "He's taking you himself." Anna froze. "Taking me? Where?" "To your neighborhood." She stiffened. He's coming with me." Augusto nodded. "He's on his way." And then Marcos Bellotti appeared. He wore simple clothes, unusual for a man who dressed as if the world were always watching. No suit, no gold watch, just a light shirt and an expression hard to read. "Ready?" he asked without formality. "Yes, sir." "Then let's go." The car started moving. The silence between them was thick, but not cold. Marcos stared out the window, watching the streets narrow, the sidewalks crack, the walls peel away. It was like crossing from one world into another. Ina glanced sideways, nervous. "I'm sorry you had to come all this way," she said softly. "It's a humble place. I want to see where your son lives," he replied, still looking ahead. "Humble isn't the problem." The car stopped at the alley entrance. Barefoot children played, a dog ran between houses, and a man pedaled by shouting, "Fresh bread!" The contrast hurt to look at. Anna got out, feeling the curious eyes around her. Marcos followed, instantly drawing attention. A rich man there stood out like fire in the dark. She led him to a small wooden door. "Here, sir." They entered. Lucas sat on the floor playing with a bottle cap, his pale face lighting up with a smile when he saw his mother. "Mommy!" he shouted, running to her. Anna scooped him up, heart tight with emotion. Marcos stood watching, saying nothing. He just looked at the boy, the cracked wall, the thin mattress, the broken fan. The silence between them was heavy. Then slowly, Marcos knelt down. He looked Lucas in the eyes. "Hey, champ," he said in a tone no one there expected from him. "You like playing with that?" Lucas laughed and held up the cap. "It's my car." Marcos smiled, brief but real. And in that instant, Anna realized the man who had humiliated her the day before wasn't quite the same man standing in front of her now. He looked around, his voice lower. "I want to know everything. About him. About you." And Anna felt that for the first time, someone truly wanted to hear her story. Anna took a deep breath. Marcos's presence in her house made the air feel heavier. The man used to marble walls and quiet luxury now stood before a cracked wall, an old stove, and a cement floor. Everything there screamed poverty, but also truth. "You really want to know everything?" she asked, adjusting Lucas in her arms. "Even if you don't like what you'll hear?" Marcos crossed his arms, leaning against the wall. "I do." Anna looked down at her son, who was drawing invisible lines on the floor with a dull pencil. Her voice came slow, careful. "I came from far away, from the countryside of Minas. My mother died young. I was the oldest, so I raised my brothers as best I could. When the youngest went to work on a farm, I came to the city to try my luck. I thought things would be different here." Marcos listened silently, his eyes fixed on her. "I've worked every kind of job," she went on. "Nanny, street vendor, laundress. That's when I met my son's father. He used to say I was different from the others, that one day we'd have a better life, and for a while I believed him." She paused, staring at the floor. The room's silence was broken only by the buzz of a mosquito. "When I got pregnant, he disappeared." Her voice came out flat, like someone who's told the story too many times. "Not even a note. I was behind on rent, jobless, and the baby was almost due." Marcos clenched his jaw, tense, but said nothing. "I was alone. My first baby was born weak, and—" her voice trembled. "He didn't make it. She stopped again. Her face hardened, and the tears came quietly, without drama. Then came Lucas. I thought it would be the same, that he wouldn't survive either, but he fought, and I swore that if one day another child needed me, I'd never let them cry from hunger, even if it cost me everything. Marcos looked away for a moment, running a hand through his hair. The weight of her words hit him in a strange way, as if they touched something buried deep inside. "And you do all this alone?" he asked. "I do. I get help from Sister Teresa, the one from the daycare. She's the one who lets me work. She looks after Lucas when I can't." Anna forced a small smile. "I sleep easier when I know he's with her." Lucas, curious, looked up at Marcos and asked with the innocence of someone who doesn't understand boundaries, "Are you Mummy's friend?" Marcos hesitated. The question caught him off guard. He smiled faintly. "Let's say I came to know her better." Lucas showed him the bottle cap. "Want to play with me?" The rich man and the poor boy stared at each other for a few seconds. The difference between them was enormous, yet in that moment, they looked like two worlds trying to understand each other. "Of course I do," said Marcos, crouching down slowly. "So how does this car of yours work?" "Like this." Lucas pushed the cap along the floor, making a little engine sound with his mouth. "It's the fastest car on the street." Anna watched in silence, amazed. She had never seen that man smile like that. It was small, restrained, but genuine. A forgotten kind of smile. After a few minutes, Marcos stood up again. His serious look returned. "Anna, yesterday you said you acted on instinct, that you couldn't stand hearing my child cry." "Yes, sir. You know." He looked out the window, the one without a curtain. "I also know what it's like to lose a child." Anna looked up. Her heart froze. "You—" He nodded slowly. "My wife died 2 years ago. Our first son was born premature. We spent a month in the hospital. I watched him stop breathing in my arms." His voice broke slightly, but he went on. "Since that day, I haven't been able to look at a crying baby without feeling guilty. The silence that followed was absolute." Anna felt her chest tighten. Suddenly, that cold, arrogant man had a wound that mirrored her own. "I'm so sorry, sir," she said softly. "No one should ever go through that." Marcos took a deep breath. "When I walked into that room yesterday and saw you, for a second I was back in that hospital. I saw the nurse trying to save my son and me, unable to do anything. You were there, holding my other son, doing what I couldn't do before." Anna didn't know what to say. She stood frozen, speechless. "That's why I didn't fire you," he continued. "And that's why I asked to see you today. I needed to understand what made you act that way." She wiped her tears quietly. "Do you understand now, sir?" Marcos nodded. "I do. But what I still don't understand is how a woman like you, with that kind of strength, keeps living like this." Anna gave a faint smile. "Strength doesn't pay rent, sir." He almost laughed, but the sound caught in his throat. He looked around, thoughtful, studying every detail, the worn mattress, the dented pot, the makeshift toy. "And his father?" he asked at last. Anna lowered her eyes. "I don't know where he is. Never came back. And if he showed up today?" She thought for a moment, then answered firmly, "I wouldn't let him in." Marcos stayed quiet. That answer hit something deep. Maybe her resolve, maybe the dignity that refused to break even in poverty. Lucas ran up to his mother, laughing, and threw his arms around her neck. "Mommy," he said, "he's going to show me a real car." Marcos raised an eyebrow. "I said maybe I would." Then he turned to Anna. "May I?" She hesitated, confused. "What do you mean?" "Tomorrow. I want you to bring him to my house. I want to show him the garden, the cars, the pool. Let him see a world he's never seen." Anna's eyes widened. "But, sir, he doesn't belong there." "And who said you did before you walked in?" replied Marcos calmly. "Sometimes what life calls your place is just the cage you got used to living in." The words lingered in the air. Anna didn't know if it was pity, curiosity, or something else entirely. But his voice held something new, a trace of respect, maybe even regret. "All right," she said finally. "Tomorrow, then." Marcos nodded. "Tomorrow, at 10. He left the house without looking back. but with the expression of someone carrying far more than he had come for. Anna stood in the doorway, watching the car drive away until it vanished from sight. She held her son close, and for the first time in a long while, she felt fear and hope at the same time. Maybe fate was about to change. But she didn't yet know if it would be a miracle or another test. The sun that morning felt stronger than usual. Heat poured through the small house's window, mixing with the sounds of children playing outside and the distant crackle of an old radio playing an old song. Anna had been awake since 6, getting Lucas ready with the same care someone gives to a sacred ritual. She splashed water on the boy's face, combed his hair with her fingers, straightened his cleanest shirt, and hurriedly stitched a tear in his shorts pocket. Lucas, restless, looked at her with wide, curious eyes. "Mommy, is the rich man really coming?" She smiled, trying to hide her nerves. "He is, sweetheart, but don't call him the rich man, okay? Just say, Mr. Marcos." "Okay, Mommy." He giggled. "Does he have a big car?" "He does, and you'll see it soon. But you have to behave, deal?" Lucas nodded eagerly, not fully grasping the importance of what was about to happen. Anna, on the other hand, felt her stomach twist. Every small movement came with that old, familiar fear. Fear of doing something wrong, of being judged, of looking out of place. Just before 10, a black car rolled slowly into the narrow alley. The sound of the engine didn't belong there. People stopped to stare. Some whispered. Others simply watched, curious. What was a man like that doing in a place like this? The car parked, and when the door opened, Marcos stepped out. No suit, no arrogance, just a light shirt, dark pants, and a calm expression. "Ready?" he asked, looking at Anna, then at Lucas. "We are, sir." "Then let's go." Anna took her son's hand and walked toward the car. She sat in the back seat, heart pounding. The scent of leather, the cold air, the heavy silence, everything reminded her that this wasn't her world. Lucas looked around, amazed. "Mom, there's a light in here," he said, laughing and pointing at the ceiling. Marcos chuckled softly. "That's the reading light, champ." The drive to the mansion was quiet. Anna looked out the window as the buildings grew taller, the streets cleaner, the trees perfectly trimmed. It felt like they were crossing invisible borders between poverty and privilege. When they arrived, the gate opened automatically. Lucas's eyes went wide as he saw the massive garden. "Mommy, is this a forest?" "It's just a yard, honey," Anna whispered, barely hiding her amazement. Marcos opened the door and gestured for them to come in. The house seemed even larger than the first time Anna had seen it. The chandeliers, the marble stairs, the smell of expensive perfume mixed with fresh flowers. But what stood out most this time wasn't the luxury. It was the respectful silence. No chatter from staff, no whispers. Helena, the housekeeper, stood near the staircase, serious and watchful. "Good morning, sir," she said, unable to hide her discomfort. "I wasn't told we'd be having visitors." "Now you know," replied Marcos without breaking eye contact. "Prepare something for the children." "The children?" Helena raised an eyebrow, glancing at Lucas from head to toe with disdain. "Ah, of course." She turned and walked away, the sharp click of her heels echoing down the hall. Anna stood frozen at the entrance, afraid to take another step. Marcos noticed. "You can come in. You're home." She hesitated. "No, sir. This isn't my home." "And what if it were?" he asked, meeting her gaze. The question lingered in the air, unanswered. Lucas ran toward the sofa, amazed by how big it was. He touched the fabric and turned to his mother, smiling. "Mommy, look, it's so soft." Ina tried to pull him back, embarrassed. "Sweetheart, don't touch anything, please." But Marcos intervened. Let him. A child should be allowed to feel what's beautiful in the world. The words surprised even him. And when he saw Lucas climbing the couch, laughing, a painful memory struck him, the image of his own son, laughing just like that 2 years earlier. Anna's voice brought him back. "Sir, I still don't understand. Why did you want us to come?" He took a slow breath before answering. "Because yesterday when I saw where you live, I realized I'd forgotten what real life looks like. I'm surrounded by people who serve me, who obey me, but none who speak honestly. You did, even scared, even ashamed. Anna lowered her eyes. I only said what I felt. Exactly, he said firmly. And that's why I want something different for you. She looked at him confused. Different? What do you mean? Before he could answer, Helena returned with a tray, 2 glasses of juice, a plate of cookies, and an icy stare. Here you go, sir. Lucas's eyes lit up at the colorful drink. Can I have it? Of course you can, said Marcos, smiling. Helena turned to him, outraged. Sir, with all due respect, this is going too far. Marcos raised an eyebrow. Too far? She's an employee, and she brought her child. And? He interrupted. What's the problem? Are you afraid a glass of juice might ruin the carpet? Helena's face tightened. I just think everyone should know their place. Exactly, said Marcos, folding his arms. And maybe your place isn't telling me who belongs in my house. Helena bit her lip, stepped back and walked away without another word. Anna watched everything in shock. You didn't have to do that, sir. I did, Marcos replied. It's been a long time since anyone in this house has heard what's fair. Lucas laughed, distracted, playing with the cookies. Marcos smiled, watching him, then looked back at Anna and spoke softly. I want to make you an offer. She tensed. What kind of offer? I want you to keep working here, but not as a cleaning lady. I want you to take care of my son, as his nanny. Anna froze. Me? But, sir, I don't have training. I didn't even finish school. I'm not looking for a resume, Anna. I'm looking for trust. And my son already trusts you, he said. Yesterday, when he woke up, he cried, asking for the nice lady. That was you. Tears filled Anna's eyes. I don't even know what to say. Just tell me if you accept. She took a deep breath, trying to process it all. It sounded too good, too unlikely. But when she looked at her son's smiling face, she understood. Maybe life was finally giving back, little by little, what it had taken from her. I accept, sir. Marcos nodded, and for the first time since they'd met, he smiled softly. Then it settled. From today on, you'll be Daniel's new nanny. Lucas clapped, not quite understanding, and ran into her arms. Anna hugged him tight, her heart overflowing. But from the top of the staircase, Helena watched in silence, her eyes cold, calculating. While Anna smiled, Helena was already planning her next move. Because in that house, peace never lasted long. In the days that followed, the Bellotti mansion found a new rhythm. Ina arrived early every morning, wearing a spotless white uniform, her hair neatly tied, and a look that mixed gratitude with quiet anxiety. Her job was no longer scrubbing floors. It was caring for little Daniel, Marcos's son. On her first day, she could hardly believe it was real. Walking through the same halls where she once needed permission to enter felt like stepping into a fragile dream, the kind that disappears when you wake up. Good morning, Miss Anna, greeted Augusto, the driver, smiling. The boss is in his office. The boy's still asleep. Thank you, Mr. Augusto, she replied politely. She stepped quietly into Daniel's room. The boy slept peacefully, his face calm, his blonde hair messy on the pillow. Anna's chest tightened. She remembered the day she held him crying, the same cry that almost cost her the job, and now she was paid to protect him. She sat beside the bed, straightened the blanket, and watched him. Life was strange, turning her from villain to caregiver, from cleaner to someone trusted. But while Anna smiled softly, someone was watching from the doorway. Helena. The housekeeper pretended to arrange a tray, but her cold gaze said otherwise. Beautiful, isn't it? She said, her voice dripping with poison. One day you're scrubbing the floor, the next you're sleeping near the boss. Anna stood up slowly, calm but firm. I'm here to work, Mrs. Helena, to take care of the child, not Mr. Marcos. Helena gave a fake smile. That's what they all say. Excuse me, Anna replied, turning back to the crib. Daniel's going to wake up. Helena stayed still for a few seconds, watching her like a predator studying its prey. Then she left, leaving behind a trail of expensive perfume and resentment. The following days brought more of the same, sharp looks, whispered gossip, and muffled laughter in the hallways. With every compliment Marcos gave Anna about her work, the atmosphere in the house grew more sour. One afternoon, while Marcos was in a meeting and Anna played with Daniel in the garden, Helena appeared again, holding a cup of tea. "Mr. Marcos asked me to bring this," she said with a sly smile. "You must be tired." Anna hesitated. "Thank you, but I'm not thirsty right now." "Take it. The boss doesn't like it when people refuse his kindness." Anna accepted politely but didn't drink. Please thank him for me then." Helena watched, irritated. "You think you're clever, don't you?" "No, I just try to do my job right." "I've seen many like you come and go," Helena said, her tone sharpening. "They start humble and crying, then forget where they came from." Anna sighed, keeping her calm. "I'll never forget where I came from, Mrs. Helena. Maybe that's exactly what bothers people. They think poverty is a flaw." Her words cut through the air like a blade. Helena stepped back, speechless, and left with a stiff expression. Daniel clapped his little hands, laughing. "The lady got mad, Mommy Anna." Anna smiled. "No, sweetheart, she just forgot how to be kind." That evening, Marcos came down to dinner earlier than usual. He looked tired but attentive. "Is the boy asleep?" he asked. "Yes, sir." He went to bed smiling. "He's different lately." Calmer. Marcos looked at her. "You have a good effect on him." Anna smiled shyly. "I think he just needed attention. Kids feel when someone truly cares for them." "So do adults," he said softly, his voice gentler than usual. She blushed and lowered her gaze. "I just do my job." "I know, and you do it better than anyone who's ever worked here." As they spoke, Helena listened from the hallway, hidden in the shadows, her face hard with anger. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, she slipped quietly into Marcos's office. Picking up the phone, she dialed a number. Hello? Mr. Renato? This is Helena from the Bellotti residence. I think you'll want to know who your former boss has been getting involved with lately." On the other end of the line, a man's voice replied something low and sharp. Helena smiled faintly. "That's right. The cleaning woman, the one who had a child out of wedlock. She's here very close to him, and you know how Mr. Marcos gets emotional when he feels guilty." She hung up slowly, pleased with herself. The next morning, Anna arrived at the mansion and immediately sensed the heavy atmosphere. No one spoke to her. The maids avoided her gaze, the gardener only nodded from afar, and even Augusto, the driver, looked uneasy. "Did something happen?" Anna asked. Augusto sighed. "Best to pretend you don't know, Miss Anna." "I really don't." "Well, rumors are going around. They say Mr. Marcos is getting married again, and that his fiancée didn't like your presence here one bit." Anna went pale. "Fiancée?" "Yes, a woman named Beatriz, rich, influential, and very jealous." Anna felt the ground slip beneath her. "But I don't have anything with my boss." "I know that." Augusto lowered his voice. "But in this house, truth and lies are worth the same when someone wants to bring you down." Just then, Helena appeared in the hallway, feigning surprise. "Oh, Anna, have you heard the news? It seems the future Mrs. Bellotti wants to meet all the staff, especially you." Anna took a slow breath, trying to stay calm. "I have nothing to hide." "Wonderful," said Helena, her smile dripping with poison. "Then it'll be an easy conversation." She walked away, leaving Anna's heart pounding. That night, as Anna put Daniel to sleep, she whispered to the boy, "If anything happens, I want you to know Mama didn't do anything wrong, okay?" The baby grasped her finger and smiled, unaware of everything. But Anna knew. A storm was coming, and she was right in its center. The sound of tires crunching over gravel echoed across the courtyard. A silver car stopped in front of the mansion, and from it stepped a tall, elegant woman, wrapped in an expensive dress and a perfume so strong it seemed to claim the air itself. It was Beatriz Montero, Marcos Bellotti's fiancée. She walked with confident steps, her purse hanging from her arm, dark sunglasses hiding half her face. Helena hurried to greet her, smiling like an old ally. "Welcome, Mrs. Beatriz. What a pleasure to see you again." Beatrice slowly removed her glasses, scanning the house. The pleasure's mine, Helena. It seems nothing has changed here. Yet. The word yet sounded like a warning. Mr. Marcos is in his office, Helena said. But if you'd like, I can tell him you've arrived. Beatrice nodded, then added casually, and where's that new employee? The one taking care of my future stepson? Helena hid her satisfaction. Anna? She's in the garden with the boy. Perfect, Beatrice replied, a cold glint in her eyes. I think I'll meet her before Marcos even knows I'm here. Helena hesitated. Should I come with you? No. Beatrice fixed her hair, confident. I want to see with my own eyes the kind of woman he's been praising. Out in the garden, Anna played with Daniel. The boy laughed out loud, trying to catch the soap bubbles she blew through a small plastic wand. Look, Daniel. A giant one. She laughed as a bubble floated up and popped on his nose. It was a soft, innocent moment, but the sound of heels striking stone broke it in half. Anna turned. Beatrice was there, flawless, expression cold and calculating. So it's you, she said without greeting. The famous nanny everyone's been talking about. Anna stood quickly. Good morning, ma'am. Yes, that's me. Anna. Beatrice crossed her arms. Tell me, Anna, what exactly is it you do here? I take care of little Daniel. Only that? Anna blinked, confused. Yes, ma'am. Beatrice stepped closer. And what did you do before you started taking care of him? I worked as a cleaner. Ah, Beatrice smiled with disdain. Quite the promotion, isn't it? Anna kept her tone calm. I just accepted an opportunity, ma'am. Beatrice walked around her slowly, like someone inspecting an object. And does Mr. Marcos usually hand out opportunities like that to every maid he hires? I wouldn't know, ma'am, Anna replied softly. I never asked. Maybe you should have. Beatrice's tone grew sharper. People often confuse kindness with something else, self-interest. Daniel, unaware of the tension, tugged on the hem of her dress. Are you Mommy Anna's friend? Beatrice looked at the boy, startled, then back at Anna. He calls you Mommy Anna. Anna blushed. It's just habit. He's still mixing up words. How convenient, murmured Beatrice. So you're not just the nanny, you're the replacement. Anna took a slow breath. I'm not trying to replace anyone, ma'am. I'm just doing my job. Of course, of course. Beatrice adjusted her purse with forced ease. The problem is, women who are too good often forget where they came from. Helena appeared soon after, pretending to be surprised. Mrs. Beatrice, Mr. Marcos is waiting for you in the living room. I'll be right there, Beatrice replied, eyes still locked on Anna. I was just meeting the woman everyone's been talking about. Before leaving, she leaned closer and whispered, Be careful. Fate loves to punish people who forget their place. Anna stood frozen, her heart pounding, breath trapped. As Beatrice walked away, Helena approached, clearly pleased. Message delivered, huh? She didn't like you one bit. I didn't do anything to her, Anna said, her voice trembling. That's the thing, you didn't have to. Helena shrugged. Some women hate simply because they can. Anna fell silent. The little boy, innocent as ever, grabbed her hand. Mommy Anna, is the angry lady leaving? She smiled sadly. She is, sweetheart. Now let's play a little longer, okay? Inside the main hall, Marcos stood up as Beatrice walked in. You didn't tell me you were coming. I thought a surprise visit would be more honest, she replied, her smile cold as glass. Even so, you could have called. She walked up to him and kissed his cheek. Aren't you going to introduce me to your new protégée? Marcos frowned. So you've already met her? I have, and I've understood quite a lot. Understood what, exactly? That your sense of charity hasn't changed one bit, Beatrice said, pouring herself a glass of wine. You still love playing the savior. Marcos crossed his arms. Don't talk about her that way. Why not? Are you asking me to respect a maid? I'm asking you to respect a mother. Beatrice let out a short, dry laugh. Of course, a mother. And how lucky she is that fate put her right under your roof, isn't she? Marcos took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Beatrice, you're crossing the line. The line? She repeated, full of irony. The same word you used when you defended her for breastfeeding your son. Yes, Helena told me all about it. What a maternal gesture. Marcos was silent for a moment before answering quietly. She saved my child. Beatrice set her glass down hard on the table. She bewitched you, that's what she did. And if you're not careful, Marcos, she'll ruin what's left of your reputation. He stepped closer, his tone low but firm. I don't owe anyone anything. Not even you. Beatrice stared at him, her pride wounded. So you're dismissing me now? No, I'm just saying you have no right to humiliate someone who's done you no harm. Beatrice stepped back, eyes glistening, not with sadness, but with rage. You'll regret defying me over a servant. She turned sharply, the sound of her heels echoing through the marble hall until the main door slammed shut. Moments later, Helena appeared, her expression perfectly composed. Is everything all right, sir? Marcos rubbed his face, exhausted. No, but it will be. Out in the garden, Anna gazed at the horizon, holding back tears. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow across her face and little Daniel's, who laughed in her lap. But from the window of his office, someone was watching, Marcos. And for the first time, he realized something he didn't want to admit. Anna's presence made his house feel alive again. He also knew it would come at a cost, because from that moment on, nothing would ever be the same. Beatrice wasn't the type to forgive. The next morning, the mansion was too quiet. No chatter in the kitchen, no laughter in the garden. The tension in the air felt heavy, as if everyone knew something was about to happen. Anna arrived early, as usual. She wore her crisp white uniform, hair neatly tied, her expression calm, the kind of calm that only comes from someone who's learned to swallow humiliation without losing dignity. But inside, her heart raced. She couldn't stop thinking about her encounter with Beatrice the day before. Her words still pierced her mind like needles. Fate loves to punish those who forget their place. When she stepped into the kitchen, she felt the shift instantly. The two maids who always greeted her kept their heads down, pretending to be busy. The cook, Mrs. Zuleida, mumbled a quiet morning and hurried off. Anna took a deep breath and kept walking, but the silence clung to her like a shadow. When she entered Daniel's room, she found the boy sleeping peacefully, toy in hand. Smiling, she knelt beside the bed and gently ran her fingers through his hair. "Good morning, my love," she whispered. "Did you sleep well?" He stirred, half asleep. "Mommy, Anna." She smiled and kissed his forehead. "Shh, sleep a little longer." But when she stood up, she noticed Helena standing in the doorway, watching her closely. Her gaze was sharp as a blade. "Starting early with the affection, aren't we?" Helena sneered. Anna kept her composure. "I'm just taking care of the boy, Mrs. Helena." "Of course." Helena crossed her arms. "Taking such good care that he even calls you Mum." Anna frowned. "I never taught him that." "But he said it," Helena replied, stepping closer. "And guess who heard?" Anna stayed silent. "The future Mrs. Bellotti," Helena went on. "And let's just say she didn't seem too pleased." Anna closed her eyes for a moment. "I'm not competing with anyone." "You don't have to compete," Helena said coldly. "You've already lost." Anna's stomach dropped. "What do you mean by that?" "Beatrice is coming back today, and this time she's bringing proof." "Proof of what?" "That you're a manipulator." The words sounded absurd, but Helena's icy tone left no doubt. There was a plan in motion. Hours later, Marcos returned home. His face was tired, his eyes distant. He had spent the morning in meetings trying to distract himself, but Anna's name kept echoing in his mind. When he stepped inside, Helena greeted him with her usual politeness. "Mr. Marcos, I'm so glad you're back. Mrs. Beatrice has already arrived and asked to see you in the living room." Marcos frowned. "She's back?" "Yes, and she brought documents." "Documents?" Helena feigned surprise. "I have no idea what they're about. She only said it was important." Marcos sighed and stepped into the living room. Beatrice stood by the window, dressed entirely in white, holding a folder in her hands. When she saw him, she smiled, controlled, elegant, dangerous. "I'm glad you came, darling. We need to talk." "About what?" "About your nanny." Marcos's eyes hardened. What about Anna? Beatrice opened the folder and spread several printed pages across the table. Recognize these? He picked them up. They were copies of messages, blurry photos, and old notes. What is this? Your dear Anna's past, Beatrice said, crossing her arms. Records from her old building. She was evicted 3 times, sued for unpaid rent, and she paused, savoring the words. Worked for a while at a night bar. Marcos closed his eyes for a second. And what exactly does that prove, Beatrice? That she isn't who she pretends to be. That she's one of those women who know exactly how to get close to rich men. Same story every time. Pain, sick child, tragic life. She stepped closer. You're just her next victim. That's low, he said quietly. It's the truth, Beatrice replied with a look of superiority. And if you don't do something, you'll destroy your reputation because of her. Marcos dropped the papers on the table. I won't judge someone for what they had to do to survive. Beatrice laughed dryly. Of course, the noble knight defending the poor damsel. She saved my son, he said, his tone steady. And maybe that's exactly how she manipulates you. Beatrice sneered. Guilt is a powerful weapon, Marcos. The silence between them was thick. Marcos rubbed his face and said calmly, if you came here to humiliate someone, you came to the wrong place. So you're actually choosing her? He looked at her for a long moment, said nothing, and walked out. Beatrice stood frozen, pride burning through her veins. You'll regret this, she whispered. All of you will. Meanwhile, Anna was tidying up Daniel's room when Helena walked in, a piece of paper in her hand. You're fired, she said coldly. Anna froze. What? Mr. Marcos decided it's for the best. Helena extended the paper. Everything's written down. You can collect your pay and leave today. Anna took the paper with trembling hands. That can't be true. He promised. Promises don't pay rent, dear. Helena shrugged. No one here is irreplaceable. I want to talk to him. He doesn't want to talk to you. Anna stood there, pale, heart racing. I didn't do anything wrong. Everyone says that. Helena turned, satisfied. But in this house, truth is whatever the owners decide it is. She left, leaving Anna alone in the quiet room. Anna looked around. The crib, the scent of baby lotion, the scattered toys. Everything suddenly felt distant, like a dream dissolving at dawn. From the crib, Daniel reached his arms out. Mommy, Anna, don't go! She dropped to her knees, hugging him tight. I never wanted to leave, my love. Never. But deep down she knew. She had no choice. Outside, Helena watched from the window with a satisfied smile. Now things are finally back where they belong, she murmured. What she didn't know was that Marcos, standing halfway down the staircase, had heard every word. And for the first time, he finally saw who the real manipulator in that house was. Marcos stood still on the staircase landing, fists clenched, eyes locked on Helena. Every word she'd said burned through him like fire. You're fired. The owners decide what's nothing. In that moment he understood that none of the chaos came from Anna. It came from within his own home, from envy, poison, and the masks of false loyalty. He descended the stairs slowly, each step heavy. Helena noticed him too late. Mr. Marcos, she stammered, straightening her apron. I was just quiet. His voice cut through the air like a blade. Helena swallowed hard. What you heard, sir? I heard enough to know who really crossed the line in this house. He stepped closer. You thought you could decide who stays and who leaves under my roof. I was only trying to avoid a scandal, sir. Mrs. Beatrice doesn't run this house. His voice rose, sharp and final. And neither do you. Helena tried to defend herself. But, sir, you don't know what that woman has done. Oh, I know. Marcos pointed at her. I know she saved my son. I know she works honestly, owes me nothing, and deserves more respect than you've shown in your entire life. Helena stepped back, face pale. I was just following orders. Orders from who? Beatrice? He gave a bitter half-smile. Then give her a message for me. It's over. Helena blinked, stunned. What do you mean, over? The engagement, the contract, everything. Marcos drew a deep breath. And as for you, Helena, Pack your things and be gone by the end of the day. You can't fire me like this, she shouted, desperate. I've worked here for 10 years. 10 years were enough to forget what it means to be human. He turned his back on her. You're dismissed. Helena stood frozen, shaking, unable to believe what she'd just heard. Marcos walked straight to Daniel's room. When he opened the door, he found Anna kneeling beside the crib, eyes full of tears, holding the boy close, as if saying goodbye to a part of herself. Anna, she turned slowly, surprised to see him there. Sir, I'm sorry. I was just about to leave. You're not going anywhere. But Mrs. Helena told me. I heard everything. He stepped closer. And that was the last time she ever spoke on my behalf. Anna looked at him, confused. You heard me. I did. And I saw something I should never have allowed. Them treating you as if you were less. She stayed silent, unsure whether to believe him. I never should have let Beatrice get this close. Marcos continued. She poisoned me with doubt, brought papers, lies, half-truths. And out of cowardice, I let it all fall on you. I don't want you to feel guilty, Anna said softly, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I just want to live in peace. And you will. His tone softened. But first, I want you to hear something. He took a wrinkled envelope from his pocket and placed it in her hands. This is yours. Mine? It's in your name. Anna opened it carefully. Inside was a contract, sealed with the Bellotti Company's emblem. Full-time employment, full salary, benefits, housing included. I can't accept this, she whispered, frightened. Yes, you can, and you should. He looked her straight in the eyes. You're not charity, Anna. You're someone who deserves a chance. She was speechless. I've learned something these past few days, he said quietly, that a person's worth isn't measured by what they wear, but by what they do when no one's watching. The silence between them was thick, yet peaceful. Anna took a deep breath, trying to hold back her tears. You have no idea how much this means to me. I do, he replied, because once I needed someone to believe in me when everyone else doubted. He looked at Daniel, sleeping peacefully. When my son died, I swore I'd never let fear make me cruel again. But somehow I did. You reminded me what empathy really is. Anna lowered her eyes. I only did what any mother would have done. Exactly. He smiled faintly. What you call instinct is what keeps the world standing. She tried to smile, but her tears slipped free. Marcos handed her a handkerchief, and she accepted it shyly. And Beatrice? She asked hesitantly. Will she accept all this? He took a deep breath. Beatrice has had everything money could buy, but she never learned how to buy what truly matters. Loyalty. She'll try to get revenge, Anna warned, uneasy. She can try. He gave a faint, calm smile. But now she has nothing left to take from me. Anna looked at him, quietly admiring his calmness. Sir, she began, hesitating. What will happen to me now? To you? He took a step closer, meeting her eyes. From now on, you'll work with me. Not just as a nanny. I want your help rebuilding Sister Teresa's community daycare. Her eyes widened. The daycare? Yes, Marcos nodded. I went there last night. I saw the place, the children, and I realized you weren't just fighting for yourself. You were fighting for all of them. Anna covered her mouth, moved. Sir, I don't even know what to say. Just say you accept. She smiled through tears. I accept. At that moment, Daniel stirred and opened his eyes, smiling when he saw them. Daddy, Mommy Anna. Marcos and Anna exchanged a stunned look. The boy reached out his tiny arms toward them. I want a hug from both of you. Anna hesitated, but Marcos lifted his son and looked at her. Come here. She stepped forward, and together they held Daniel, who laughed happily, unaware of the weight that simple gesture carried. For a brief, perfect moment, the whole room seemed to breathe in peace. But outside, by the mansion gate, a dark car waited. Inside, Beatrice watched through the half-open window, her eyes fixed on the three of them embracing. Her fingers clenched the handle of her purse tightly. This isn't over, she whispered. They think they've won, but I never lose. The engine started quietly and the car disappeared down the road. And inside the house, unaware of the danger drawing near, Anna finally felt something she hadn't felt in years, the feeling of belonging somewhere. The sun rose softly over the Bellotti mansion, but peace was only an illusion. Outside, another black car parked a few meters from the gate. From it, Beatrice stepped out, her stride calm, her face serene. Too serene for someone filled with hatred. She held a folder in her hand, and beside her walked a man in a dark suit, the Montero family's lawyer, infamous for solving problems quickly, and, when needed, quietly. "We'll do this my way," Beatrice said coldly. "No one takes what's mine, especially not a woman like her." "Are you sure, ma'am?" the lawyer asked. "Mr. Marcos might not take this well." Beatrice gave a faint, chilling smile. "Oh, he'll react all right. But by the time he does, it'll be too late." Inside the mansion, Anna was making breakfast for Daniel. The boy sat on the floor, playing with colorful blocks, laughing. Marcos came down the stairs, already dressed for work, his face lighter than it had been in days. "Good morning," he said. "Did you both sleep well?" "We did, sir," Anna replied with a warm smile. "Don't call me sir anymore," he said gently. "Marcos is fine." Anna blushed. "I'm still not used to that." "Then start getting used to it. You're part of this house now." His words still lingered in the air when the doorbell rang. Augusto, the driver, went to answer, but when he saw who stood outside, he froze. "Mrs. Beatrice, tell Marcos his fiancée has arrived," she said with an icy smile. The grand hall felt like a stage. Marcos stood there, hands in his pockets, watching Beatrice walk in with the lawyer at her side. Anna, uneasy, stayed by the doorway, not understanding what was happening. "What are you doing here, Beatrice?" Marcos asked firmly. "I came to finish what was left undone," she said, stepping closer, "and I brought my lawyer to make sure everything is handled properly." "Properly? Under what law?" Beatrice opened her folder and pulled out a stack of papers. "This house is yours, Marcos, but half the businesses, properties, and investments are still under my name." She stared at him with superiority. "Or rather, they were. Because if you keep this woman here, I'll make sure you lose everything." Marcos crossed his arms. "That's blackmail. That's justice." Beatrice tossed the papers onto the table. "I won't let you ruin the Bellotti family's name over a cleaning woman with a dirty past." Anna stepped forward, indignant. "Don't talk to me like that." Beatrice laughed. "Look at that. She even answers back now." "Because I'm not invisible," Anna said sharply. "And if you think you can humiliate me again, you're wrong." Beatrice turned her head slowly, eyes narrow. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, my dear." "I do," Anna replied, steady and calm, "with someone who thinks money can buy everything." "Enough," Marcos cut in. "No, Marcos," Beatrice raised her voice. "You need to choose, right now." The silence was thick. Little Daniel watched from the stairs, curious, not understanding. "Choose what?" Marcos asked, calm but cold. Beatrice took a step forward, almost triumphant. "Either she leaves now, with whatever dignity she has left, or I'll destroy your career, your image, and your company. I have enough influence to do it." Anna inhaled deeply, holding back tears. "If this is because of me, I'll go," she said, voice trembling. "I don't want to be the reason you fight." But Marcos stopped her, firm. "No, you're not going anywhere." Beatrice's eyes widened. "What? I'm done living in fear of what people think," he said. "You believe you hold power because you have money, but what you really have is emptiness, and emptiness doesn't scare me anymore." Beatrice let out a cold laugh. "So you'll throw away the family name for her?" "Not for her," he answered, glancing at Anna, then at his son. "For me, because for the first time in years I'm doing what's right." The lawyer tried to intervene. "Mr. Marcos, if I may—" "You may not," Marcos interrupted sharply. "If this conversation is about power, then it's already over." Beatrice stood frozen, pride wounded, hatred burning in her eyes. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," he said calmly, "but at least this time I'll regret something my heart told me to do." Beatrice turned to Anna, eyes fierce. "You may think you've won, but you haven't learned the game yet. I have contacts, proof, the press is on my side." Anna lifted her chin. And I have the truth. Beatrice blinked slowly, controlling her fury. Truth doesn't pay lawyers. No, Anna replied steadily, but it cleans the soul, and that's why you'll never know peace. The silence that followed was razor sharp. Beatrice gathered her papers, shoved them back into the folder, and turned toward the door. This isn't over, Marcos. It is. He looked her straight in the eye. The door's right there. She walked out, the echo of her heels like gunshots against the marble floor. The lawyer, ashamed, followed her. When the door finally shut, Anna collapsed into the armchair, relieved, shaken. You shouldn't have done that. She'll take revenge. I don't care. Marcos approached her. I'd rather lose everything than live in fear again. Anna looked up at him, eyes wet. I never wanted to be a problem, and you never were. He knelt before her. You just showed me how surrounded by lies I've been. So now what? She asked quietly. What happens next? Now, he glanced at Daniel, still watching them from the stairs. The three of us start over. Anna smiled through tears. The three of us? Yes. He took her hand. You, me, and the boy who saved both our lives without even knowing it. Daniel ran down the steps and jumped into their arms. Daddy! Mommy, Anna, let's play! Marcos and Anna laughed, hugging the child. For the first time, their laughter sounded free. But outside, Beatrice was already on the phone, her eyes burning with hatred. I want everything on her. Name, ID, address, her entire past. Find me something that can destroy that woman. The voice on the other end replied, and Beatrice smiled coldly. Perfect. Call me when you have it. While happiness bloomed inside the house, revenge was already taking root outside, and no one yet knew the storm that was coming. The news spread faster than Beatrice could whisper. Within hours, rumors about Anna's past turned into headlines across local media, thanks to Beatrice's contacts and her lawyer. What began as a quiet smear became a cloud threatening to swallow everything Marcos had tried to rebuild. The daycare, his integrity, their fragile peace. On the morning of the daycare's reopening ceremony, the Bellotti mansion buzzed like a beehive. Journalists, photographers, and curious neighbors filled the yard. Trays of food circulated while the gardener trimmed the last hedges, unaware that another war was about to begin. Anna, her palms sweating, adjusted the makeshift tie around little Lucas, now known by everyone simply as Daniel. Her eyes met Marcos's, filled with both fear and faith. Moments later, Beatrice appeared, more dramatic than the sun itself. She entered in a spotless white dress, a glittering bracelet on her wrist like a declaration of war. At her side was a man with a camera, and behind him the same lawyer who had accompanied her before. Two reporters followed close behind, smiling as if they already knew the story they would publish. What a coincidence, murmured Helena, leaning casually against the doorway, watching everything with a smug expression. Looks like we're about to have quite a show. Marcos looked at her for a brief moment, and finally saw her mask fall. This was the moment to choose: pretend everything was fine and wait for the storm to pass, or expose the truth right in the middle of the celebration. He chose truth. On the small stage set up for the ceremony, a banner read, "Inauguration, Sister Teresa's Daycare, a new beginning." Children ran around with colorful balls. Neighbors applauded, and a reporter's camera focused on Anna, dressed simply, her shy smile almost hidden. Beatrice stepped onto the stage before anyone else, taking the microphone as if claiming a throne. The crowd grew quiet. "Good afternoon, everyone," she began, her voice sweet but sharp as glass. "I came here because I believe that before any social project, it's fair to know the true story of the people involved." The crowd began to murmur. Photographers moved closer. Beatrice smiled, slow and deliberate, and opened a folder. "I bring proof that this so-called new nanny has a past that makes her unfit to be around children. Photos, messages, records. Mr. Marcos's house is being used as a stage for deception." Anna felt the floor vanish beneath her. Her trembling hands instinctively reached for Daniel's, who clung to her fingers, unaware of the chaos unfolding. Marcos stood still, silent for just a few seconds too long. The audience waited for the final blow. Then he stood up. "Beatrice," Marcos said, his voice firm as he walked toward the microphone. "You said you brought proof. Fine. Then let's hear every side of this story. Not through whispers, not in the dark, but right here, in front of everyone, with sound, documents, and witnesses." The air went still. Beatrice raised an eyebrow, confident. "And what exactly are you planning to do?" she asked. "I want everyone to hear something you didn't expect to exist." Marcos motioned to Augusto, who brought a small speaker. "A few days ago, after hearing strange conversations and noticing suspicious behavior, I asked to have a recorder placed in the sitting room. Not to spy, but to protect the people under my roof." He pressed play. The room filled with clear, cold voices, Helena's sharp tone, Beatrice's calm instructions, two others plotting to find something damaging about Anna and make it appear in the press. The playback froze the room. Every word hit like a blade. "It'll be easy to dig up something filthy. Get photos and texts. We'll build the rest with context. I'll pay whoever it takes." Helena's low chuckle in the background made Anna's blood run cold. Beatrice swallowed hard, her confident facade cracking. "This is illegal," Beatrice stammered, her voice fraying. "Recording without consent, not more illegal than what you plotted." Marcos cut her off. "You conspired to defame and manipulate, and use the media as your weapon." The reporters looked at each other, whispering nervously. One of them raised his camera, but hesitated, unsure whether to capture the lie or the truth. "This proves nothing," Beatrice said, her voice trembling now. "Those are words taken out of context." "Then listen to the rest," Marcos replied. He played another segment. Helena listing names, payments, and contacts. Beatrice's lawyer's name surfaced. The reporter beside Beatrice turned red as whispers spread through the audience. The murmurs grew into gasps. Beatrice's breathing grew shallow. Her entire plan, the image, the confidence, the manipulation, was collapsing in front of everyone. She tried to speak, but her voice broke into fragments. That's when Sister Teresa, sitting among the crowd, stood up. Her voice cut through the noise, strong, sincere, and heavy with truth. "I've known Anna long before she ever stepped foot in that house. If you need proof, take my word. She's a mother. She has always put the children first." The nun's words struck deep. The audience shifted, hearts turning toward Anna. Neighbors began to clap quietly. The children, unaware of the tension, started to laugh and cheer, their innocence carrying the sound of truth through the air. Then Marcos did something no one expected. He handed the lead reporter the very same evidence Beatrice had brought, exposing the metadata and digital traces of forgery. The files had been fabricated by an agency hired by Beatrice. The timestamps didn't match. The phone numbers were fake. The lawyer's involvement was undeniable. Beatrice tried to regain her composure. "You don't know what really happened," she cried, almost begging to be believed. "Oh, I know enough," Marcos replied, calm but cutting. "I know my home nearly became a courtroom built on lies. I know my fiancée tried to twist my life to feed her wounded pride. And I know there's one thing you still haven't admitted, Beatrice. Why you need so badly to destroy someone who never harmed you." Beatrice went pale, trapped. There was no exit left. And then, from the back of the crowd, a journalist spoke up, holding a printed document high. It was a small, discreet bank transfer made by Beatrice to a private intelligence service. A payment, now public, that tied her directly to the smear campaign she had just denied. The man in the suit, Beatrice's accomplice, leaned toward her and whispered something, then slipped away through the side exit. His face was no longer hidden. He was exposed. Humiliation fell over Beatrice like a curtain collapsing. Her white dress looked like evening wear at a funeral. For the first time she felt hollow. Stripped bare in the center of the stage, she'd tried to control. I, she stammered. "This is a setup. None of you understand my intentions." "Intention isn't an excuse for deception," Marcos replied firmly. "No one twists the truth in my name." The crowd erupted. Some booed. Others whispered harsh words. A few lifted hand-drawn signs defending Anna and the daycare. The cameras didn't show mercy. Beatriz, standing alone, defeated. Helena, red-faced, was led away by other staff. Her pride gone, her role in the scandal exposed. At the center of the stage, Anna felt her knees tremble. But when her eyes found Marcos and Daniel's innocent face beside him, she felt the ground steady beneath her feet. The storm of lies had broken against the unshakable shield of truth. Beatrice walked out through the main doors like someone tumbling off a pedestal. No applause, only the hiss of disapproval following her to the street. Outside, the car that had brought her sped off, carrying her rage and her shattered pride away. When the last camera lowered and the noise softened, the crowd turned its attention back to what truly mattered: the children. Sister Teresa climbed the small stage, hugged Anna, and said aloud for all to hear, "Today, we didn't just open a building, we opened the truth." And the truth, in that moment, weighed heavier than any threat. The humiliation meant for the weakest had circled back, sharp and cold, to those who planned it. Justice might come slowly, but when it arrived, it thundered, and that thunder now echoed through the entire street. The afternoon settled gently, like balm after a storm. The square in front of the daycare glowed with golden sunlight, reflecting off the faces of laughing children. Life, as always, moved on. But inside the Bellotti mansion, the air was different, lighter, but touched with the weight of a new beginning. Anna sat on the porch with Lucas, though Daniel now called her Mama Anna, mixing the names as if he wanted to blend their stories into one. The boy spoke non-stop, showing the drawings he'd made at the newly restored daycare. "Look, Mama Anna, this is me and this is Daddy Marcos," he said proudly, pointing at the crooked stick figures. Anna smiled, tears welling again, but soft ones this time. "It's beautiful, my love." Marcos appeared a moment later carrying 2 cups of tea. He handed one to her and sat down. The silence between them wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. "Today was tough," he said at last. "But it's over." Anna hesitated. "Is it really over?" "Beatrice lost her audience," Marcos replied. "And without an audience, people like her lose their power." She took a deep breath, though her heart still carried scars. "I don't know if I'll ever walk down the street without feeling like people see me as someone who doesn't belong." He took her hand. "You do belong, not because of me, because of who you are." Her eyes filled again. "No one's ever told me that before." "Then remember it," he said softly, "because you're going to hear it many more times from now on." Daniel ran up to them, climbing into Anna's lap with a laugh. "We're a family now, right?" Anna froze, overwhelmed. She looked at Marcos, who nodded gently, a quiet spark in his eyes. "Yes, we are," she said, wrapping her arms around the boy. In the following days, everything began to change. Helena vanished without a trace, and no one missed her. The remaining staff moved more freely, breathing lighter, as if a dark shadow had finally left the house. At the daycare, the repairs continued. Children filled the halls, painted with bright colors, and Anna began helping Sister Teresa not only as a volunteer, but as the bridge between Marcos and the community. Every day her world grew a little wider. A future that once seemed impossible now unfolded before her eyes. But the biggest change was within her. That night, sitting beside Marcos in the study, Anna finally spoke about what she had always kept buried in silence. "I've spent my whole life waiting to fall. Every time something good happened, I'd start bracing for disaster. And now," he asked gently. She smiled shyly. "Now I want to believe I can stand." Marcos leaned closer and held her hand firmly. "You can, because this time you won't stand alone." Time passed. The official opening of the daycare brought not only reporters but the entire community. There were no cruel speeches, no false accusations, only applause, smiles, and honest tears. Anna took the stage at Sister Teresa's invitation. Her hands trembled, but her voice was clear. I don't have a fancy education or an important last name, but I do have something no one can take away, the will to see a child smile without fear of tomorrow. If each of us does our part, we'll prove that what defines us isn't where we come from, but what we choose to do with what we have." The audience rose in applause. Marcos, standing among them, smiled with pride. Daniel, on a neighbor's lap, waved and shouted, "That's Mommy Anna!" That night, back home, Anna stood on the porch, looking at the starry sky, and sighed. "Who would have thought?" she murmured. "A cleaning lady who only wanted to feed a child, now building a whole new life." Marcos appeared behind her, draping a coat over her shoulders. "It wasn't destiny that did this, Anna. It was you." She smiled, eyes glistening. "And what if everything falls apart tomorrow? Then we'll rebuild it together." He pulled her close, and the quiet of the night was filled with Daniel's laughter coming from the bedroom. Life wasn't perfect. There were still scars, fears, and the lingering shadow of Beatrice somewhere out there, maybe waiting for another chance. But for the first time in a long while, Anna felt something she had never truly known before: peace. Deep down, she understood that the real change hadn't been getting a better job or a nicer house. It was finally being seen, being acknowledged, and, above all, being respected. The lesson of that journey stayed not only with her, but with everyone who had witnessed it. Never underestimate those who seem small, because it's often in humble hands that the strength to change the world quietly rests. And so, the woman who was once humiliated for nursing a child that wasn't her own ended up holding that same boy in her arms, now part of her family, beside a man who had finally learned that true power isn't in money, but in the courage to defend what is right. The house that was once cold became a home again, and the dignity that once seemed lost had returned, this time to stay.